when you try to teach people his ways and how to avoid him and how to do better and how to do more service to Jesus our King. We've had a hard time at our house this week. Back in Alabama, we had 3 deaths in the family. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. My mother had to go to funerals. And last night, we hit a car and knocked the window out of the bus. This week, Rachel's transmission quit in her Suburban, and my engine quit in my Suburban. So now our parking lot has become a true junkyard. We've got several cars out there on blocks. But God is going to get us through it. He always has. He always will. And our Scripture tells us that he that believeth in me, though he be dead, yet shall he live. So none of that's going to matter, not even death. For even in death, we have a refuge. Amen? This morning, my sermon's kind of short. I see everybody smile. I'm finishing up this last part of the series on knowing our enemy and how to defeat him and how to deal with temptation. And this morning I want to look at perhaps the most common area of temptation in our world today, and that would be fornication and adultery. Now, who can tell me what fornication and adultery are and what's the difference between them? Anyone? We hear the words thrown around. We know that our society is saturated with sex. Sex is used to sell everything from tires to hamburgers. It's everywhere. It's all over the movies. It's all over any TV show you watch. I'll tell you the difference. Is anyone ready to tell me the difference in adultery and fornication? What is it, Becca?
Fornication is sex outside of marriage. Adultery is sex outside is between someone in a marriage and someone not, or two people.
You are correct. Fornication is any type of sexual activity outside the bonds of marriage. Adultery is any type of sexual activity where at least one of the participants is married. Both are rampant, both are common. All of us know someone whose marriage or life has been torn up by this activity. Now, last week I was listening to Moody Bible Network. Any of you listen to that? 88.1 FM. Really good stuff, good solid teaching all day long. And one of these ministries brought up a statistic that I'd never heard, and I've not been able to verify the source. But they said that in America, 60% of all married men and 50% of all married women have been unfaithful to their spouse. Now, if it's really only half that or a third that, it is still a staggering statistic. How much adultery is going on out there. So this morning I want to look at practical ways to avoid adultery. Go to 1 Corinthians. The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Who wrote Corinthians? Paul. And who did he write it to? The church at Corinth. The church is having problems. We said at Bible study Wednesday night that the combined volume of 1st and 2nd Corinthians is greater than all the letters to the other churches. The church at Corinth has some problems, but it's the same kind of problems that are prevalent in churches today. So look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7, starting in verse 2. But since there is so much immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. Do not deprive each other except by mutual agreement, or rather mutual consent, and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, it may not sit well with a lot of church folks this morning, but I have to tell the truth. Husbands and wives should not abstain from sexual activity except by agreement for a short period of time, like Paul has listed here. They are to keep each other sexually, sensually satisfied. And I'm not just talking full or satisfied after you've had a Happy Meal, but I'm thinking like second dessert after Thanksgiving dinner satisfied. All the way satisfied. All sensual desires, men and women, married men and women, should be satisfied at home. At home, nowhere else. I've had some men tell me, well, Pastor, my wife's just not what she used to be. Or a lady might say, well, all my husband's interested anymore is football and hunting. Well, men, if you want your wife to be a princess, you need to treat her like you did before you married her, before she said yes. Think about that. You remember when you opened doors for her and left little notes for her to find, or when you brought her flowers, or when the birthday was really something special? Can you remember when you wouldn't let her carry the groceries in your house? You carried her books at school. Or these days, I guess you carried her iPad for her. They don't have books anymore. Remember, gentlemen, when just the brush of a hand could take your breath away? These are the times you need to make it back to. I heard a preacher say, if you treat her like a thoroughbred, she won't be an old nag. A pretty good quote right there. You get what you give. If you want to be treated well, you treat well. Proverbs 5 in the NIV says this. You can go over there, Proverbs 5, verse 15. And in the Proverbs, as you read through those 31 Proverbs, which you should be doing every month now, one a day. Today is the what? What's today's day? So what proverb should you read today? Proverbs 16. You will find more warnings in there against adultery than just about anything else. We're going to read one here. Proverbs 5, verse 15 in the NIV. It says, drink water from your own cistern, running water from your own well. Should your springs overflow into the streets, your streams of water into public squares? Let them be yours alone, never to be shared with strangers. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth, a loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, by an adulteress? Why embrace the bosom of another man's wife? Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But what's he talking about here? It sounds like you shouldn't share your water with anyone else, and that doesn't sound like a Christian thing, does it? We're supposed to give water to those who are thirsty. Listen to the same passage in the New Living Translation. Bible study, I like it that there's several versions out there. Sometimes we'll read a passage that doesn't quite make sense, but if you read it in a couple of others, it shapes up. Verse 15 from the New Living. Drink water from your own well. Share your love only with your wife. Why spill the water of your springs in public, having sex with just anyone? You should reserve it for yourselves. Don't share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She's a loving doe, a graceful deer. Let her breast satisfy you always. May you always be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, with an immoral woman, or embrace the breast of an adulterous woman? For the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. Gentlemen, every sensual desire is to be satisfied at home, nowhere else. Ladies, you need to treat your man like a knight in shining armor. You say, well, he's not quite the knight he used to be. Well, that's okay. Again, you get out what you put in. Treat him better. Honor, respect him, love, encourage, support him as the head of his household. And he'll face down fire-breathing dragons to take care of you. Give him something to look forward to when he comes home, and you'll find that he doesn't want to do overtime anymore. He won't be stopping off to see his friends after work when he knows he's left something turned on at home. He will come home. The job will not be as important. You need to let your spouse know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are desirable to you, that you want them in every way. Nothing will make someone as faithful as knowing that you're wanted and you're needed, you're desired, you're important. Next thing, to avoid giving into temptation, sexual as well as any other, you need to be well rested and fed. Take the grocery store, for example. Who went to the grocery store this week? Some of you are getting hungry, aren't you? You need to go to the grocery store. If you want to blow a lot of money that you can't afford, just go to the grocery store when you're tired or when you're hungry. You will buy more stuff that you don't need than you can imagine. You know, you walk into the grocery store, where's the milk? Somebody tell me. All the way in the back. Where's the bread? All the way in the back on the other side. Where's the meat? Along the back wall. That's so you have to walk past everything else in the store to get the things you need. You go in and think, well, they moved the stuff. My ketchup's not where it used to be. I can tell you there's a reason for that. You go in Walmart, there's not a thing on that shelf which has not been researched to the tune of millions of dollars of where to put the ketchup so people will buy it. When you come up to the checkout and you see the candy bars there, they're not in any just general thrown out there. What do you call that thing Rachel used at the store to set up your displays?
Planogram.
A planogram. They use a planogram, and I mean the juicy fruit's got to be here, and the Trident's got to be over here, and the paydays have to be there. People can lose their job over doing a planogram wrong. Why? Because all that research has proven the juicy fruit's got to be here if they're going to buy it. And remember, their whole purpose when you go in the store is what? To serve their customer. No, it's to sell you groceries. Did you know that stores have things called loss leaders? You know what a loss leader is? That's when they're running flour or sugar or some other thing at way below normal price. They actually lose money every time they sell one. If you go to Aldi's here in Bedford, I was talking to their manager. I said, how do you sell milk at $1.29 a gallon? He says, well, I lose $1 on every gallon I sell. Why would you do that in a store? He said, well, they go buy the other things. Nobody gets just milk. You got milk in your hand, all at once the Oreos are looking pretty good. Amen. So, you know, you get some Oreos, you get a box of cereal, and you get some crackers. You get all these things up there. That's where they make their money. Bait and switch. They get you in the store with a low price. It doesn't matter if they lose $1 here. They're going to gain $5 on the other side. It is designed to make you spend money. They call these impulse purchases. They put them exactly where they need to be to catch the average person in the state of mind to grab that and put it in his buggy. You see the cameras all around? They're not just watching to see if you steal. They're recording your habits, where people look, where people reach. An impulse buy is these things that are placed in the right place at the right time, and you will grab it, and you're hungry, and you're tired, and man, I don't really want to make supper tonight. It's an impulse. I saw something so funny. This was 2 years ago. I was at JC's. No, it wasn't JC's, it was Walmart, because they have the open frozen food, you know, where you just reach in and pull it out, no doors. There was a lady, she was dressed nicely. She was obviously a businesswoman, nice hairdo, and she had a half a dozen TV dinners. You know what a TV dinner is? I know you've never had one. It's a whole meal on a plate. You just nuke the whole thing and take it out and it's ready to eat or put it in the oven. Anyway, she had 6 of them in her buggy and a Diet Coke. As I went by, she goes, I just do not feel like cooking. And she put her TV dinners back in there. Now, that was her idea of cooking a meal, was to warm up a TV dinner. That wouldn't fly at my house very well. But they put things there for convenience. Convenience is part of that impulse. Now, on the other hand, if you'll go to the grocery store when you're rested and you just ate, everything is not dragging you down like it used to be. Better than that, go with the shopping list and don't get anything that's not on your list. That's why I shop without the kids, because they want all kind of things that aren't on the list.
And we're always hungry.
And they're probably hungry. I mean, they're always hungry. You get in the car with Joe, and the first thing he says is, Daddy, I'm hungry. He knows we're going to drive past places that have food. Well, our romantic lives should be arranged the same way. We should get plenty of sleep. We should satisfy all sensual desires at home with your husband or wife. Eat a home-cooked meal. That way, when you do go out to the grocery store, when you do walk into that world of temptation, the world full of available men and women dressed to seduce, trying to tempt you with that impulse purchase, you find it a whole lot easier to say no. Now, we know Barna, they're a research organization, a Christian organization. They said that after interviewing lots of people who've committed adultery, 80% of those adulteries, the first time happened when they were tired and hungry. Missed lunch or missed breakfast, Didn't get enough sleep for a week. The bottom line is, don't go shop when you're hungry and tired. Now, I might ask people to make a confession here, but don't worry, it's not about adultery. How many of you seen Monty Python's Holy Grail? Perhaps the stupidest movie that ever was. We watch it at least once a year at our house, just for fun. It may be a stupid movie, but it's got a couple of good points in there. And one of them is that when all these virtuous knights are faced with certain temptation, what do? Yes, when the knights go into battle, it's something they can't win. One screams, run away, and they all turn and run. And as a result, they survive the encounter. Same thing when they're facing temptation. They run away. That's a scriptural plan right there, by the way, to run away. The word it uses is flee, F-L-E-E. You don't hear that much anymore. A Sunday school teacher one time was teaching a Christmas story to her little kids down in 2nd grade. And she said, an angel of the Lord told Joseph to take Mary and the baby and flee to Judea, and he would provide a place for them there. And after it was over, she said, does everybody understand the story? She says, yes, you know what happened. And they said, yes. She said, one little boy raised his hand. She said, what is it, Johnny? He says, what happened to the flea? Take Mary and Joseph and flee to Judea. Flee is a word we don't use, but look in 1 Corinthians 6:18. It says, flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. 1 Corinthians 10. Therefore, my dear friends, flee from adultery. Run away. 1 Timothy 6:11. But you, man of God, flee from all this. Pursue righteousness, godliness, love, faith, endurance, and gentleness. 2 Timothy chapter 2. Flee the evil desires of youth. Pursue righteousness. Flee, flee, flee. Run away. Not a very glorious response, but run away is the way the Scripture recommends to get away from temptation. Remember, it's not a sin to be tempted, but sin, when it conceives and matures, brings forth what? Death. A lot of folks have given in to temptation. We have not fled. We've not fled. We've given in and we've destroyed our witness to the world. Now don't misunderstand. Salvation is intact. How far have you fallen from your walk with the Lord? I know some men and women who were mentors for me. I really looked up to them and I tried to model my life after theirs. And they failed me. I got several pastor friends that I really thought were some of the best that are in prison now or committed suicide. One that you never know what's going to happen, just out of the blue, up and shoots his wife and his daughter, tries to kill himself, winds up in prison. These were men that I looked up to. But guess what? It was a mistake for me to follow them. But many a young believer is following you. They're looking to you, your kids, your grandkids, the neighbor down the road. He's looking to you to see what it is to be a man or woman of God. You need to live a right example before them. You need to they need to see in your lives what Jesus would really do. I've told you before, don't you follow me. Don't you dare follow me. I'm human, I will let you down. Paul said that he was chief among sinners. Well, it's not Paul anymore, it's me. Do not follow me. You put your faith and hope and trust and following on Christ. He is the only one that deserves it. He's the only one that will give you the right example. Now, how many of you know Michael W. Smith? He's like the preeminent Christian musician in my book. He wrote a song years ago called I Miss the Way. And it's about a Christian friend he had who had given in to temptation and thrown away his witness and was walking on the other side. I'm not going to sing it. I'll just read you the lyrics. Once a true believer, once there was a fire in your soul. You were the epitome of blessed faith astir, a thirst for holiness, a hunger for the word. Now you move in other circles, to the beat of different drums, and I see only traces of the one you used to be, the inspiration that you were to me. I miss the way his love would dance within your eyes. I miss the way his heart was the soul of your life. And somewhere in the saddest part of heaven's rule, the Father sheds a tear for you. He's missing the two of you. Second verse starts out, some are calling you a prodigal. Some aren't calling you at all. But far away, someone is calling you back home. Do you believe it anymore out there on your own? I've said it before, no matter what you've done, no matter how far away you have fallen, even if you've run 10,000 miles from God and taken 3 decades to do it, it's only one step back. One step back, and Jesus is waiting to forgive you, to renew you, to heal you, to try and restore what the worm has devoured. And my invitation this morning is to come, because he is seeking you, and you can only come when he's calling. He said he would never despise a broken and contrite heart. Or you might want to come pray for someone else in your family. Perhaps you have the prodigal son, the prodigal daughter out there living on their own. We all know someone who's been tempted. We all know someone who's fallen. And this is the time to pray for them. And the altar is open for whatever you might need. Let's sing our last song, Caleb, which is
number 489.
Number 489. How many verses are there? 4. We'll sing the first, second, and last verses. Let's stand together. And again, if you need prayer for whatever, come up here now. I would love to pray with you. You don't know it? What's the name of it? You know it. Go ahead. I'll help you. Here we go. Pass me not, O gentle Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. Savior, Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. With a second. Savior, Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. With the last, you can come on this last verse and we will pray. It comes from Jude chapter 1. But you, dear friends, build yourself up in your most holy faith and pray in the Holy Spirit. Keep yourselves in God's love as you wait for the mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ to bring you to eternal life. clothing stained by corrupted flesh. To him who is able to keep you from falling and to present you before his glorious presence without fault and with great joy. To the only God our Savior be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord, before all ages, now and forevermore. Amen. Sunday school starts in 5 minutes.